Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Karen Donaldson from Excel Weight Loss Solutions and also from EFT Universe. And I'm thrilled to be here today because of course, it's always nice to connect with everyone. But today I have a really special guest who has an amazing story and also has written about this amazing story, her life. And we're going to talk about her book here in just a few moments. But it's more than a book. To be honest, Julie, it's a message of hope that I think we're so privileged to be sharing this with many, many people. So I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more, and then I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, and then we're going to just jump right in. So again, I'm Karen Donaldson. I am a registered dietitian and an EFT certified practitioner and EFT certified weight loss coach, and also a certified emotion code practitioner. And I love all of that because as a dietitian, just briefly as a dietitian, telling people what to eat and what not to eat, not enough. We've got to go deeper. And it's because of that going deeper and looking at the emotions and what's really going on with our food and our bodies and our lives that I get to meet amazing people. And Julie actually is one of those amazing people that I got to meet. And so now, Julie, if you would please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to start talking about this book of yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm equally happy and pleased to be here with you. My name is Julie, and my last name is Jacky. I have two first names, so the first one is Julie. I'm also a certified EFT practitioner, and I am a certified financial coach as well, and the author of the upcoming book, On the Other Side. And my focus over the past several years has been around helping people on their money journey. And as I've finished writing my book and putting that out into the world, it's really shifting into helping people really dig deep to clear out stuck emotions from their lives, like you were just talking.
Right.
And so many different ways. So we do a lot of the similar work, and I've had the privilege and pleasure to work with you, to have you help me along my journey too. So thank you.
You are so welcome. It was a privilege for me to work with you, actually, and we're still doing amazing things, and now we're doing this together. So we were talking right before this recording, and I'm going to share what you made me do, Julie. So we are doing a meditation to get into, I'm going to do it again, to get into the space for this. And having so much gratitude, and it's doing it to me again right now. I have so much gratitude for you and for your story, and just for the connection that we were able to make, because I think it's really important, and it's a great message of hope. Your journey is, and also your book. So yeah, now that I got all emotional again, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can tell people about why you wrote the book and a little bit more about the book, please.
Yeah, so the book is about healing and forgiveness after childhood sexual abuse. And frankly, it was never a book that I was planning to write. It wasn't something that I even wanted to talk about. And I had gone through a lot of healing a few years back that even allowed me to have the book come into my mind. So originally I was planning on writing a book about EFT for spiritual entrepreneurs, and I had to put that on hold for a little bit as I was transitioning with my work. And in the new year of 2018, when I picked it back up, I was working on a book proposal for a writing contest. And that book proposal deadline stayed the same, even though I had put the book proposal on hold. So when I picked it back up, I had this overwhelming sense that I was writing the wrong book. And this new book started coming in, and it unfolded in a way, like it presented all these different stories in a timeline to me. And I'm like, well, what is the connection here? And as I pieced it together, I figured out, oh, this is all about healing and forgiveness after childhood sexual abuse. And so the book really wanted to come out, and I'd never experienced something like that
Mm-hmm.
before. I'd heard many people say it, but not experienced it myself. And so over the past, that was in the beginning of 2018 when that unfolded. And now we're in the beginning, we're like March 2020,
Right.
and the book is been fully written and has a lot of um, stories in there, and it's there are some sexual abuse stories in there for people to understand and make the connection to the behaviors that I used to have, how I used to think, how I used to feel, um, eh, and all of that is in the book in an open and vulnerable way to share with you, to help you understand how you might have some similar
Yes.
behaviors or thought patterns, because you might be stuffing some emotion yourself from a trauma that happened back in your childhood. And it doesn't have to be sexual abuse for you
Right.
to relate to this book, which I think you found out when you were checking it out.
I think that you, and I would love for you to share more, of course. I think what you really did well in the book is explain what I call the why. Like, why am I behaving this way? Why do I act this way socially? Or why do I use food this way? Or why can't I make this happen? And so often we just say, oh, people will say I'm lazy, or I don't feel like this, or I can't. And we don't really understand the why, and that there are deeper reasons for the why. And then people really get stuck. They feel even worse about themselves, like, well, I just can't do it, or I'm stupid or lazy, or etc. But there's so much more to the story. And I think your book really will help people see, like, if they are struggling really with anything, with food or putting themselves out there, or in a relationship or a career or money, really anything, guys. There can be roots in our childhood experiences. They're called ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And it's really anything traumatic or awful that happens to us when we're growing up. And it does have an impact on the way that our brains develop, and the way that we cope, and the way that we see life, and then ultimately our behaviors and our health as adults. So it's something that many people know, but not all people know. But Julie, you do a great job of explaining, okay, this wasn't happening and this is why, or I was doing this behavior and now I see it was why that was going on. Did you find that did that help you answer a lot of questions about yourself? I'm guessing yes.
I felt like I didn't even know myself until I started going through the therapy that I went, using EMDR and EFT as two big modalities to help my healing journey. Um, I didn't even understand the behaviors. So here's a couple of examples. I was sitting in the office with my therapist, and we were working on just trying to get myself in my mind to relax, and we were doing that through a visualization, and I couldn't even relax. Every time my happy place was like at a beach in one of those huts, and I was sitting trying to plop down in the hammock and relax in the blue sky and the sunshine. And the moment that I did, I found myself looking over my shoulder as if somebody was
uh,
coming to hurt me. And I didn't realize that's how I'd been living since my childhood when this stuff started happening to me, because my body was doing its job, trying to keep me safe and keep me alive.
Absolutely.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I realized that in therapy. And when I realized I couldn't relax, I had to practice relaxing. And my way of not relaxing was, I was an overachiever, like a massive overachiever. I always had things to do, projects. I had so many things. And my motto was, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it big. And
Right.
so I would always be keeping so busy. And that busy was keeping me safe from not
Absolutely.
having to deal with my past. And then
Absolutely.
I remember this time in therapy too. So I got married, and then 8 years later, got divorced, which really isn't a surprise. I make that connection in the book for the reader when I realized, oh my gosh, like my marriage never actually had a chance
Mm-hmm.
because I closed off my heart as a result of being abused. And I never fully opened up my heart to my husband. Like
Right.
I thought I did, but I really didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so 15 years after our divorce, when I was in the therapist's office, my mouth dropped open when I realized, oh my gosh, this is my fault. And he cheated on me, and I see my fault in it. And so
Yeah.
I share that in the book, along with the story of how I apologized to him, which was pretty freeing, and um, it was very emotional for both of us.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think you just brought up a point, and we were going to talk about some of the different modalities in the rest of the show. But something that happens to a lot of people, I'm watching the time because we're going to take a break in a moment, but something that happens to a lot of people when they have, it doesn't even have to be big trauma, but it's for sure when you have big trauma, is that your heart wants to protect you from getting hurt again. And so it creates what we call a heart wall. And it's this energetic wall of all of these emotions, like these layers and layers and layers, that they do keep your heart safe. Like you're like, okay, I'm not going to get hurt again. And I'll make damn sure that doesn't happen by keeping everyone and everything out. And so then it does its job, but then it kind of backfires because then nothing can get in, but you also don't give out as well. So like you said with your husband, if you're trying to have a relationship, then and you have this big wall, there's no way that he can get in. He could try and try and try, and you are just pushing away, not consciously but
Yes.
subconsciously. But
Yes.
then what usually happens is we're like, oh, that person is horrible or bad, or they're such an butthead or whatever, when really it's nobody's fault, but it's our contribution to that relationship, that we have a heart wall and that we're blocking ourselves from giving and receiving.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And I think there's layers to the heart wall. And when I reached out to you most recently to work on the heart wall, I still
mhm,
had some blocks there,
right.
which I I wasn't surprised at all.
Yes.
Even though I had peeled layers, like I said, it is layers. And so to fully open up my heart and live from the space of my heart where I can speak from my heart, be in my heart, is very different than how I used to be
Hmm.
a year ago, 5 years ago, before I started therapy. Like I'm a very different person. It's easier for me to be loving, kind, and compassionate to
Yeah.
myself and to other people as well. Yeah.
Amazing. We have about 5 minutes before we're going to take our first break. And during that break, we're just going to take about a 15-second break to breathe. We're recording this for an audio as well. But what was what was the experience like writing your book, and what else did you discover? I'm sure there must have been hard parts and easy parts and complex parts. What was that like? It was a big deal for you.
It was a big deal, I think, because this is the most vulnerable thing I've ever done in my life. I'm
Mhm.
sharing scenes from when I was abused and bringing the reader into that, but not only bringing them into it with me, but bringing them back out of it with me. So when people read the book, they don't feel disgusting and leave the book. So they feel the healing along with it. So I had a period of time after I had written the book, then it goes through developmental edits, and developmental edits, the editor looks at the storyline and rearranges stories in there and then asks me questions to help me go deeper to connect with the reader.
Mhm.
And so when I was doing that, I made a lot of connections. Like I could see patterns of
Ah,
behavior, and I could I just had more ahas that help me see clearly, because we can see things in hindsight, and I
sure.
can just see clearly my behaviors. And one of those examples is I used to um I'm sure a lot of people have done this. Go through the motions of life because we think we're supposed to get married. We think we're supposed to buy a house. We think we're supposed to have that white picket fence. And we think we're supposed to have kids. And we think we're supposed to do these things. And so I was going through those motions in life because I thought I was supposed to do them. I didn't know like I actually could have a whole bunch of choices and not do any of those things if I
Right,
didn't want.
right.
And so I looked at that more carefully when I was looking at the first forgiveness letter that I wrote to the abuser. I had a coach at the time that told me I needed to forgive him. And I'm like, what? I'm not going to forgive him. Like, he hurt me physically, emotionally, mentally. He's impacted my whole life. I'm not going to forgive him. You're crazy. And so she said, nope, you need to do this to help release yourself and release him. He was probably hurting too. And I'm like, what? And I did the homework assignment, but I really just went through the motions of it. I did what
Ah,
she told me to do.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then,
fine. Forgive, forgive, forgive.
yep, just whatever she said to write, that's what I
Yeah.
wrote. And I call that in the book, that was my faux forgiveness. Like, it seemed like a valiant
Oh,
because
right.
it sounds good when you read it, but it wasn't. I was just going through the motions. And so I could see that correlation of just going through the motions in life, just going through the motions for this.
Ah.
Yeah. So,
Instead of actually immersing in it and experiencing it as something else you can just cross off the list. Well, I did my homework.
yep,
Yes.
I did. I forgave him.
So we have just about 2 or 3 minutes left. I'm curious on the forgiveness part. Do you feel like you actually have forgiven him now? Did you go through a deeper process?
I did. And I share that in that same chapter. So I first did the letter, and then I ended up serendipitously landing in a weekend workshop. And it was a forgiveness workshop, and I went there to forgive him. And so there's 8 steps that I went through, and I
Okay.
actually volunteered to be the person to sit at the front and model this to everybody else.
Oh gosh.
And it was a very emotional process, digging deep. And even though I'd worked through a whole bunch, I still had a lot of anger inside of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm literally punching pillows and releasing my anger that was stuck in me and going, that's part of the forgiveness process.
Mm-hmm.
And the forgiveness process actually isn't for the other person, it's
Right.
for ourselves.
Yes.
And I didn't understand that fully when I started trying to forgive. But I understood it later that it's for us. And by the time I was done with that, I felt much freedom, so much freedom because I finally let go of the weight I had been carrying around, being responsible for this that happened that I never told anybody about that it was going on when it was happening. So nobody
Mm-hmm.
knew about it. Yeah.
Julie, I think that's really important is that the forgiveness part is really for yourself. And so if I were to give one takeaway message from this segment of the show, I guess I would encourage people to read the book to learn just how important that could be. So I don't know if it was Louise Hay or Wayne Dyer or someone I remember saying forgiveness is really just about giving that up, giving up all of that energy, the anger and everything else that goes along with it, giving it to God, giving it to your higher power, whatever is appropriate for you. And the freedom that it brings for you emotionally and energetically is absolutely worth that. And so I think that's a really good thing that you did. And I'm so pleased to see that you wrote about that as well.
Yeah, the forgiveness, the freedom, it is life altering.
Mm-hmm.
So people that are struggling with the idea to forgive somebody that really hurt them,
Yep.
it's not about that person, it's about you. And you have
Yes.
your own responsibility to heal
Mm-hmm.
from your past, no matter who
Mm-hmm.
did it. And
Mm-hmm.
that is a really important message because you can either stay a victim or you
Mm-hmm.
can do things to empower yourself and heal from your
Right.
past.
And we're going to talk about this more in the next segment, but what else happens when you don't forgive is you're still storing all of these emotions in your body. and they stay there. Like the whole thing of time heals, everything is not so much. Time just lets those emotions stay there and get even more stuck. So if you're holding on to anger and rage and guilt and shame, and it's all wrapped up in these balls, and you can't let it go, that doesn't do your own physical or emotional body any good. And so from a health standpoint, mental, physical, and emotional forgiveness is really important as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
We're going to take a break for just a couple minutes. I want to let you know that if you'd like to know more about Julie and find out how to get her book on pre-order, you can go to juliejacky.com. Is that right?
Yes.
juliejacky.com. JULIEJACKY.com. And you can also find my website at excelweightloss.com, EXCELWEIGHTLOSS.com. You can find contact information for either of us on our websites. We're going to take about a 15-second break. And while we do that, Julie, you guided me through something before we met where we were breathing into our heart. How about if we do that for the break right now?
Okay. So just go ahead and put your hands over your heart and start directing your breath in through your heart and out through your heart. In through your heart, out through your heart. And just do that for a few more seconds in silence.
Good, thank you all so much. So welcome back. If you're joining us on audio, welcome back to the second segment of our show. My name is Karen Donaldson from Excel Weight Loss Solutions, and I'm here with my friend and colleague and author, Julie Jacky. And we are talking about her book that is coming up. And Julie, what's the title of your book? Remind us all of that, please.
On the Other Side.
On the Other Side. Beautiful. Her book is about on the other side of childhood sexual trauma. And we talked in the first segment about why you wrote the book. Julie, could you share with us some of the processes that you went through to actually heal from all of this? Because I asked you first if this book was about going from hopeless to being hopeful, and you said, no, it was more about going from, am I crazy, to having hope. So what kind of things did you do to heal from this so that you could be in this beautiful place that you're in right now?
Well, let me tell you about the crazy a little bit, and then I'll shift to, literally, I felt like I was going crazy because these memories from childhood kept popping in my mind. And I call it that I was playing that whack-a-mole game. I was trying to whack them down and
Right.
they pop back up, and I whack them down and they pop back up. And they started impacting me like at my work. They started impacting my sleep. I felt like I was going crazy because here I am trying to shove these down and ignore them and pretend they don't exist and just tuck them away like I had for, like 30 years. And they just keep popping up, and they were taking over my mind.
Yeah.
And that's why I felt I was going crazy. So I first started using EFT, emotional freedom technique, or tapping. And that started, I remember the very first time I went to a certified EFT practitioner, and we just tapped on the person's name. And Dan is his name, and it's 3 letters. And I was sobbing when I had to say his name for the first time. And we tapped on it while I was sobbing, which is super important to do, by the way, to keep tapping.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, felt massive relief. My insides calmed down. I could feel them, just like I didn't even know that they were that riled up, but the new calm sensation I felt in there was phenomenal. And once you get a taste of freedom like that, like you get that taste, I wanted more. And
Yes.
so I kept tapping. And then I found a therapist that specialized in sexual abuse and did
Mhm.
EMDR, which I'm not certified in, but it's called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it's similar to tapping in the sense that you're getting trapped emotions out of your body
Right.
and helping get those, because like you were saying earlier, Karen, they stay in you.
Mhm.
If you're pushing them down and hiding them and ignoring them and pretending they don't exist, that method does not work. It
It does
bubbles.
not.
No.
Well, and what else happens if you have all of those emotions is that you're literally stuffing them down into your body and they're being stored. So they're affecting your cells and your organs and your mind. But then that's very uncomfortable. I remember one time saying to, when I went to a counselor one time, I'm like, I feel like I'm going crazy inside of my own mind. And then you want to do something to feel better. And that's very often where food, at least for many of the women that I work with, myself included, like, oh, surely this will make me feel better in my head and in my body. And so we end up tranquilizing with food or alcohol or drugs or anything else that makes your head feel better and also your body feel better. And then I tell my clients we're literally just stuffing those emotions even deeper, like we're piling food on top of them and carbs and all of that. So it doesn't work to just pretend that those emotions aren't there. I've been there, done that. You have too. So many, oh yeah, I'm fine. I remember when I first learned EFT and I was working in partnership with this woman and I helped her and I'm like, oh, that was so good. You did great. She goes, I feel wonderful. And she said to me, okay, it's your turn. And I'm like, oh no, I'm good. And she's
Right?
like, really, you don't have anything? I'm like, I don't know, I have a little stuff. So she gently pushed me and we got to work on my stuff. So really important to address that and not just keep stuffing those feelings. And like you said, the feeling of relief when you are able to let those go, how wonderful is that?
I don't know if you remember the first time that we tapped together. It was over the phone, and I was in one of your courses, and it was tapping on weight loss. And I was at that point um, really stressed in my life, and because I was starting to have these memories come up, I was starting to deal with them, and even dealing with them
Mhm.
causes stress too.
Yeah.
And I was craving McDonald's. And I remember us being on the phone. I'm on this conference call for weight loss, and we're talking about cravings. And I have my phone in one hand and my keys in the other. And I want to go to McDonald's. And I know what I'm going to order. And you took a volunteer to tap with. And I hit that number so fast. And you called on me. And I told you, keys in one hand, phone in the other. I'm ready to go. And what came up was my dad and mom got divorced when I was very young. My dad would pick us up on weekends. He'd take us to McDonald's and get a Happy Meal. And when he would pick us up, my brother and I would wait at the end of the street. We'd be jumping up and down when we'd see his
Mhm.
car, Dad, 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 because we were so excited. So
Right.
that excited feeling and the Happy Meals, my body connected that and said, hey,
Yes.
McDonald's makes you really happy.
All better.
Well, when I was
Mhm.
in my 40s, I didn't agree with that. I didn't want to go to McDonald's.
Right.
And so when I was stressed out, my subconscious would take me there and I wouldn't want to go, and then I wouldn't feel well afterwards. So you helped me through that.
Oh, yay. See, and that, thank you for sharing that story. But that's exactly what happens. We get these emotional connections in our mind, like McDonald's equals everything is all better, or cookies make everything, cookies are love, food is love, all of that. And so, as a dietitian, oh gosh, it's been 10 years or so, I decided I can't tell people anymore, don't eat this, don't do that, etc. That doesn't work. And actually, that may be the food that is helping them cope at that moment. And it's almost cruel to take that away without having some other coping tool. So that's why every day I'm grateful for tapping, because of tapping, emotion code, all of these modalities, because now I can say, well, let's work on that food craving, or let's work on that soda craving, or whatever. But I'm going to give you another tool that will help you get through that rather than just cold turkey. I always say it's
Yeah.
like taking a pacifier from a baby, but you don't give them any other way to cope. So you can't just take that away and expect someone to be okay. We really do need these emotional tools. And you, my friend, have used these emotional tools for so much more than food cravings. We're going to talk about that when we come back. We're going to take just another break for a moment. Before we leave, I want to remind everyone, if you want to find out more information about Julie and her book, you can go to juliejacky.com, and you can find out more about me and my services at excelweightloss.com, EXCEL weightloss.com. We're going to pause for just about 15 or 20 seconds, and we'll be right back. So good. Welcome back, everyone, to this amazing show about On the Other Side. And really, Julie, you could call it On the Other Side of Trauma, childhood sexual trauma, but really any kind of trauma, because the tools that you used would help really anybody in any situation.
Yes.
You used EFT tapping, you used EMDR, we did emotion code. Maybe share a little bit more about how that really helped you heal. Because I know your journey, you had so many healing steps along the way, and new things would show up like, oh gosh, now I need to work on that, or oh, I didn't realize I was blocked there. Share some more of your success stories, if you would, please.
Yeah, so one of the things is when we have trauma and we don't deal with it, it comes out in our life sideways in other ways. So I already shared I got divorced because I didn't open my heart. After I got divorced, I was a single mom, and I got laid off from my job. And then a couple years later, the stock market crashed. And at that time, I had two discretionary businesses. One was jewelry and one was travel. And both of those tanked. And what happened to me, my life after that is I spiraled out of control. I was bankrupt. And I say that I was not only financially bankrupt, but I was emotionally bankrupt.
Right.
And so I got my way out of that. So after I did file bankruptcy, and 18 months later, I was making six figures more money than I ever had before, because I trained my brain in a new way and to think about money in a different way. And that's part of the reason that I also became a financial coach. But I also, when I was going through my EFT training, I took a bunch of extra money tapping courses and other money courses, so I could really help people get out of that space. And one of the things that I ended up tapping on is the affirmation, I am worthy. And you know, we can walk around saying affirmations, I'm worthy, I'm worthy, I'm worthy, but it really doesn't mean anything if underneath it you don't actually feel worthy. And so what I found with tapping, and you probably have too, is that when you tap on an affirmation, you can clear out all the things that stop you from believing that to be true. And when you do, this space opens up and you feel so different. So for me, tapping on I am worthy, I remember that, and I shared the story in my book too, so you can know the exact process that I went through. But I just kept feeling better and better, and knowing that I was so worthy and I am worthy. And tapping through I am worthy then allowed me to ask for a significant raise. And I share that in my book too, and share the process that I went through in asking that. But had I not tapped on worthy, I would have never been able to ask for a raise of several $1,000s.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is so interesting, because all of these emotions really just affect pretty much every area of your life. I remember going through something similar as well, and I work and work and work and work, and then it's like, but I'm just not getting where I need to be, and it's hard, and it's all the time. And I thought, well, I need to do some work on my own emotions, especially around money and prosperity. And when I started doing that, I was like, I wish I had done this about, I don't know, 10 years ago, because just like within the course of a year, it's like, oh, this is not that hard. Of course money flows to you. Of course I am worthy. Of course it's easy and fun, but it was not always like that. And so it was really hard. So all of these emotions affect our money stories. You've been through that. I've been through that. We've come out on the other side, both of us. And of course, we're very grateful for that. So we really want to let people know that this healing affects so many great areas of your life in so many positive ways. And I think tapping is extremely valuable. It really helps to, I have to check the time here. It really helps to clear out those emotions. The emotion code is another modality that we use to find emotions that are trapped in our bodies. But I also want to remind people that the mindset that we have is really, really important. And I know you've done mindset work, and I've done mindset work as well. To where we're actually creating new pathways in our brain. Like we really do believe that we can do this and that we're healing and that we're happy and that we're on the other side. So in summary, I tell people we want to clear out the gunk, but we want to put new beliefs in as well.
Absolutely.
And I think you did that beautifully.
Yes, that's absolutely. You have to clear out the gunk.
You do.
In order for the good stuff to even be true for you to
Yes.
believe it and make it
Yes.
happen. Yes.
Whether you think of it as pulling the weeds out of the garden so that there's room, however you think of it. And on that note, it reminded me of something else. You can definitely clear out the gunk and pull the weeds, but if you don't plant the new seeds, nothing will grow. So literally like a garden, you could weed the garden and then you could go out a couple months later and say, well, where are the flowers and where are the vegetables? Oh, did you put in any seeds? Oh, no, was I supposed to put new seeds in? And so that's something that you've done and I've done as well. It's making sure that we have planted those new seeds so that they can take root.
For what we do want. It's purposeful
Yes.
planting too, not just grabbing a bag of seeds and plop them in. It's choosing
Yes,
what seeds do I want? What do I want to grow and cultivate in my mind?
exactly. Consciously and subconsciously creating what we really would like to have happen.
Yes.
I know you know all about that. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and have one more 8-minute segment where we're going to share a bit more about these modalities and maybe how they can help you as well, and some more about Julie's book. So please stay tuned. And you can go to juliejacky.com to learn more about her and her book, or excelweightloss.com for me, Karen Donaldson. During this break, we invite you to just take a breath, place your hands over your heart for about 10 or 15 seconds. Maybe think a thought of gratitude. That always raises your vibration. Very nice. Welcome back, everyone. This is our last 8-minute segment for this show. We're so glad that you joined us today. This is a really important topic, and I have to tell you again, Julie, I'm thrilled to be able to be a part of sharing this for you. You have made I hate to say the word progress, that doesn't even seem big enough. You've come so far, and it really is a message of hope for people that you can have these things happen and end up on the other side. Is that one of the things you really wanted to share?
Yeah, I mentioned a little bit earlier that it is, no matter what's happened to us in our past, that it is our personal responsibility to do our work and heal from the past. So the person that may have harmed us, they're not going to heal us. We have to do the work ourselves. And that is the biggest message of the book. And when we do that work and we dig deep, even though it's painful and we call it crud and yuck, and it's not necessarily fun to do, but that freedom, my life has changed exponentially. I moved from Minnesota to Florida. I live across the street from the Atlantic Ocean. I work full time for myself. I I love my life. I've totally redesigned it, and I wouldn't have been able to do all those things, and I didn't do all those things before because I was stuck. I
Right,
was stuck in my past. My past was literally my future until I
right,
changed it.
right.
So I think also we want to talk about the emotion code, because when I came to you most recently, it was because I wanted to. This book is coming out into the world, and
Right.
I have always been one that hasn't want to be seen, and carrying extra weight on my body was a protective mechanism for me to keep safe. And so I
Absolutely.
came to you for help around that. And what we ended up clearing out was the heart wall that we talked about earlier. And we cleared out lots of stuck emotions that I still had around being seen, and realizing that being seen has been, not wanting to be seen has
Right.
been something that's gone on through my whole life since early on. And so what you helped me do through using emotion code was release the different emotions so I could share this book with the world. Because here I've written all this stuff that's
I
absolutely.
remember the phone call. Hi. Okay, so here's the deal. I wrote this book. I need to get it out there, but I have this fear of being seen. How can I write this book? How can I get it out there? I can't even be seen. And you're like, let's do this right now. It was so cute.
That's exactly, because I
Yeah.
knew I needed help doing
Yeah.
it. Even though I am a practitioner and I've done a lot of work,
We
I
all need
still
help.
need help, right?
Yes.
And it's easier to have somebody because they can see and hear things you can't. And that's
Absolutely.
why I came to you. And so you help guide me through that process to be able to be seen here, to be able to go on Facebook and do lives, to be able to
Yeah.
share my book with the world so it does impact millions. And, you know, it people don't have to have sexual abuse trauma to
Sure.
get something out of my book
Hmm.
either. It can be for any hardship in childhood or even in adult life, as we talk
Absolutely.
about using the voice and being able to speak up for yourself, and so many other things in there too.
I just remember we did some sessions on clearing out those emotions about afraid to be seen. And then I think it was about a week later, I noticed you doing a Facebook Live. I'm like, ah, yes, she's out there. She feels safe to put herself out there. And I was thrilled for you because you do have to get out there so you can promote the book and to help other people. And that was a big block. So I wanted to
Yeah,
say congratulations on that. That was amazing that that happened for you. And other
thank you.
shifts as well. You've shared the other things with me about releasing your heart wall, changes that are happening with your body, how you're feeling confident. So I just have to say that, of course, I'm excited about the work that you and I have done together, but I'm so proud of you for everything that you've done and then for putting it out there for other people. I think that's incredibly amazing.
Thank you. I really hope that it inspires people to know that they can take their lives in their own hands and make changes. I mean,
Mhm.
I didn't know I could, and I didn't even know that I was stuck. Like, I
Mhm.
didn't know that until I
Right.
started doing the work, and the pieces started coming in. I started figuring it out. And so when you read the book, you'll make your own connections,
Mhm.
and you'll go, "Oh, I do that. I wonder if it's related to this." And that
Yep.
will open something up for you as an opportunity to work through, so you too can feel the freedom that's on the other side for you after that.
Julie, your book is so honest and so vulnerable, and it's a good read. So I want to make sure that our listeners and our watchers know that. When's it going to be out?
So right now, when we're recording this, we're in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. And so the current date is June 11th. That
Okay.
could shift if our country makes massive changes to close
Yeah.
things down. But it will go for pre-sale on Amazon in April. It's around April 7th or 8th, around
Mhm.
there.
Okay.
And so you just look for it on the other side, or my last name is spelled Jacky. So Julie Jacky on the other side, and you'll find it out there.
Awesome. We're looking forward to it. And I'll just briefly say, I'll make sure that this timer doesn't go off in the middle of our conversation. You mentioned the coronavirus, and we are in the middle of a pandemic right now. And here comes those goosebumps again. All of the energy tools that we have talked about for helping Julie, that helped her, EFT, emotion code, all of these energy healing tools, of course, helped her through this huge crisis. But we also want to let everybody know right now, they help with everything, including whatever you might be feeling related to this pandemic. So anxieties, fears, all of those, we're all being triggered right now. And we want to definitely end this interview on a positive note, but we do want to share that there's hope even for those emotions that are coming up right now.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful that we have these tools. I'm grateful for myself to help myself feel calm, but you and I have been sharing them with our clients as well. So if there's something in that area that we can help you with, please reach out in that way too.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of tapping on Facebook to help people out.
Lots of tapping and clearing of emotions, and a lot of stuff even in the middle of the night. I got up to go to the bathroom the other night, and this thought popped into my head, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, we're going to do some tapping, we're going to do some clearing, and then I was able to go back to bed. So thank goodness that we have these tools.
Yes. Yeah.
Julie, thank you so much. We are out of time. She and I could talk for another couple of hours, but we'll wrap it up for now because we have to. So thank you so much, my friend and my dear colleague. Be sure to look for her book at juliejacky.com, excelweightloss.com. We thank all of you for being here with us today. We're so grateful that you showed up to watch us and be here, but also that you took that time for yourself. You get to count this as an act of self-care for yourself and self-love. So good job there. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We will see you. I'll make sure I know how to turn this off. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.